And then here's the EMDG, Export Market Development Grant, quite well known as well program. And as Tim made a comment yesterday, in his opinion, it's been wrecked. That was his summation.
It's really damaged at least. So after the R&D incentive, this is the next, most popular one. There's thousands of applicants each year for this. So, and when I said it was wrecked, I mean, up until FY21, it was a program where after year end, you reported to Austrade back on what you spent on promotion of your goods or services in export markets, and they would broadly reimburse you 50% of the costs. Now, if the program funding sort of was exceeded, they would pro rata people down a little bit, but most years people got their full 50% entitlement. What's happened, so for this current financial year, FY22 and future years, they've changed the program from a reimbursement model to an apply in advance and enter into a grant agreement model. So now what we had to do for FY22 was, at the beginning of FY22, we made an application for the next 12 months or 24 or even 3 years. And you enter into a grant agreement. And what happened was, because it wasn't based on what people had already spent, I think what happened was that everybody put in more ambitious claims. And so they said, oh, okay, well, if we're getting 50%, then I think our marketing budget for the next 2 to 3 years will be X. What they came back with was everybody got a lot less. So that moderation down where the program funding is exceeded, that we were severely impacted by that last year. So they actually also divided us up into 3 categories with different caps. So under the old program, the cap was a $150,000 grant, but everybody was treated essentially the same. You get 50%. Now you're either tier 1, which means I haven't exported, but I'm ready to export. The maximum grant you can get for that is $40,000 per year versus old $150,000. And in fact, tier 1 applicants were only offered $15,000, not $40,000. So you can see it's about, less than half. Tier 2 is for grants of up to $80,000 per year, and that is for people who are exporting already, but you are expanding your promotion. So, they put in some extra criteria there. You can't, not only are you exporting, you actually have to be expanding your promotion overseas, whereas they didn't have that sort of criteria before. Now, again, up to 80,000 in theory, they were offered around 30,000. And then the third category, up to 150,000. So this is the maximum level. But this is where you're undertaking a strategic shift in your promotion of your export products. And then they were most adversely impacted. So you asked for 150 and you're only offered 36,600 last year. So just be careful if you're going to be applying for this. It's likely that at least for the next couple of years, we're not going to hit those caps. We're going to be quite a bit under because they signed grant agreements for 2 and 3 years in FY22, and a lot of the funding will be tied up for the next couple of years in those existing grant agreements. So whilst they are having new rounds for each year, we don't know how much funding is going to be available. But I think it'll be similar to this for a couple of years.
Yeah, they reckon.
Yeah, they seem to reckon. Yeah, 36 as opposed to 150. It's pretty bad.
Give an idea of what's meant by export. Export doesn't have to be shipping out pallets of goods.
No, it can be services. So typically, and it can be tourism. Actually, I don't currently have any tourism clients, but you can bring people to the country. Big one is software and exporting. Services around software, but also we've got claimants in the business coaching and mentoring space. I mean, so it's about promoting sales anywhere in the world except New Zealand and North Korea and Australia.
And Iran isn't Iran as well?
No, Iran got back in.
Oh, Iran's back in.
They're back, baby. So that's that. So so the funding is there. And you should take advantage of it again, because if you're doing, fit into those categories, it's very likely you'll get funding. It's just not as much as maybe you might think when you read that through the brochures.
And these are some of the expenses you can you can claim.
Yeah,
So,
the big ones prior to COVID was marketing visits, where you went overseas for up to 3 weeks per trip. So there was lots of expenses there. And then marketing consultants and overseas representatives, the other sort of big ones, along with advertising. So traditionally that was like newspaper, radio, TV, but these days it's Insta and Facebook. And so, we see a lot of money tied up just in that line.
I think an interesting one there as well, that bringing buyers to Australia is covered too.